Hey everybody, welcome to the Happy Hour Show, courtesy of Doc Sports. I'm your master of ceremonies, Tony George, and guess what we're talking about today? You know this is a show for guys and gals who love to bet sports and all that encompasses. We're going to get down to the nitty-gritty today. The 2019 college football season is almost upon us, coming here in late August. Going to do a little preview of that, and I could not think of anybody better to bring on the show today than who I consider one of the most foremost experts in college athletics. And by the way, he's a 25-year broadcasting veteran. He's done play-by-play for UC Riverside, Long Beach State. He's got a daily show here in Las Vegas that is the best sports show. The versatility of his talent on display every single day on KDON 101.5. I believe it's 720 on your AM dial. He's got sportsxradio.com. It's archived on a podcast. If you're not listening to it, you should be. Trust me, when I say he's the authority and I respect him, I've been in the broadcast business over 20 years myself. Ladies and gentlemen, really no introduction needed. Ken Thomson of SportsX Radio here in town. How you doing, buddy?
Good to see you, TG.
Oh, how's things going?
Yeah, you know, I'm telling you, just every time you think that you're going to get a jump on football season, you're like, I got May, I got June. All of a sudden you look down and it's like, oh man, a few weeks away, better get on this stuff.
It's here. Interesting. You invited me out to a Steiner's Pub here. You do a remote.
Right.
I went out. By the way, you were right on the Steiner's Pub thing out here on Buffalo in Las Vegas. The lamb chops were good.
Oh, the best.
Man, good. Met your wife. Ironically, the home office of Doc Sports is in Sauk City, Wisconsin. Wade likes me to make that famous.
Right. Got to make that famous.
And we got some parting gifts for you from Sauk City when you leave today. But interesting enough, I had a chance to meet your charismatic and lovely wife. The first thought I had when I met her was, you clearly outran your punt coverage.
Oh, there's no question.
Yeah, but that being said, her mother was a principal in Sauk City, Wisconsin, a little town north of Madison, about 40 miles or something, population 2,000, home of Culver's.
Right, Culver's, love it. They don't have them in Vegas, but they have them in Arizona.
Oh, man, the Butterburgers, if you ever, we had one in Kansas City,
yes.
man, you got to have them. And the French dip, and the custard. Yeah. See, I've lost some weight. I've been here. There's no, one of those around the corner from where I lived at in Kansas City before I moved out here. But nonetheless, when I went out and was at that remote, that's your statement dawned upon me. You were going crazy on college football. I'm like, damn, it's right. It's like 10 Saturdays away as we tape this from college football. And I thought, who better to bring on the show to talk a little bit about college football than yourself. And we're going to talk about 4 conferences. Well, we could talk about 5, but we're going to stay out of the Pac-12 really. Obviously, I'm a Big Ten guy. Used to be a Big 12 guy. I'm a Husker.
Okay,
Husker.
I got that, and I'm a USC fan, but my dad was an Ohio State guy. So
we got Big 10 going on. Big 12, some interesting things going on there. SEC, interesting things going on there. ACC. Interesting things going on there, and we'll just start with the ACC if you don't mind. Clemson, and then everybody else. What's the story there?
Well, they lost a lot of guys, but it is changing of the guard as far as college football. Dabo Swinney's, of course, an Alabama guy. That's where he played his ball.
Right.
But he has surpassed Nick Saban over the last few years as far as the head-to-head, taking 2 out of 3 in the title games. And this team's reloading. Now, they do lose a ton as far as the defensive line. They lose the whole defensive line.
Huge.
But there's depth there. These are all 5-star kids, and they're waiting. They're waiting for their opportunity. Secondary is still going to be pretty solid. And the playmakers, the main guys, I mean, when you bring back a Trevor Lawrence, a Travis Etienne in the backfield, right there, 1-2 combo, and then 2 of the better receivers in Higgins and Ross. The defense, again, reloading like Bama does, so Clemson and everybody else. But there is another player this year, and that is Syracuse in my guesstimation. Syracuse beat Clemson a couple years ago up at the Q's. Mm-hmm. Now, Eric Dungy's gone,
right?
But DeVito's there and a pretty adequate quarterback. Dino Babers has done a great job.
Fantastic.
I mean, this is a basketball school that he's turned into a football school. A lot of people, younger guys, they heard the name Jim Brown, but they don't know that he played at Syracuse. Was also probably the greatest lacrosse player over there at Syracuse as well. But I like this Syracuse team, and they get Clemson at home early on in the season. They could shock them again, Tony. Wouldn't shock me as far as that head-to-head matchup, but I don't see any other pitfalls for Clemson outside of that game.
Florida State, Willie Taggart, is he going to resurrect that program? Because last year, I got to tell you, there are a lot of Seminole fans across the country. That program kind of a dumpster fire last year.
Willie Taggart, to me, one of the most overrated coaches in the country.
Big time.
Showed it at Oregon, got an opportunity there, and he bailed on Oregon because he knew he could never get the program back to the level that Chip Kelly had it. So he bailed. No, I won't say that Florida State wasn't up there, because that was the one school that he had there in the contract. That was his dream job. So he got there, and all of a sudden, like you say, be careful what you wish for. You're there. Noles fans are used to winning, used to getting that chop going. Tony, last year was an embarrassment for this team.
Yeah. Had
a couple decent games down the stretch, but, Blackman, an okay quarterback. Now, they get to transfer Hornibrook coming over from Wisconsin.
Right.
Don't know. I would think, it's a toss of different. They may use both quarterbacks. Just depends. But there's a lot of pressure on Taggart, because for the team to go under 500, you may get away with it 1 year. And they just say, hey, look, he's just getting his feet wet, not knowing the lay of the land. Let him work with his. They lost a lot of players. They still have a pretty good core there. But Tony, pressure's on Willie Taggart. If he flounders this year at all, anything close to last year, he's gone.
There's going to be a lot of discontentment if he doesn't get to a decent bowl game this year and make a showing. And I'm not so sure that the quarterback that transferred from Wisconsin, there weren't people knocking down his door to get to him.
Well, that's because they rely on the running game.
Right,
it's a handoff to J.J. Taylor, and that's it.
What I'm thinking is maybe that was just a system that wasn't good for him, and maybe he can thrive at Florida State with his skill set. That's yet to be determined. What's interesting to me is the Coastal Division. Mark Richt steps down from Miami. You got Manny Diaz coming in there. Mm-hmm. You've got a proud Virginia Tech team last year that got beat by ODU. ODU lit up a Bud Foster coach defense like a Christmas tree, like they were at Rockefeller Plaza. The Coastal Division. Virginia had a good year last year.
Bronco Mendenhall's done a nice job coming over from BYU.
Right.
And now he's got a quarterback that's a dual threat, very solid. Mm-hmm. You look at what Perkins did last year. He rushed for 9, he threw for 25, 9 picks, going to cut down that a little bit. But Bronco Mendenhall's a guy that his players stay. And he grabs guys, he'll mix them in. Freshmen, a couple freshmen. Sophomores, he likes to get the sophomores in there. And you're going to see senior-laden classes. This year, he's got a bunch of seniors on the defensive side of the ball. This is a dangerous squad. This team has potential to take the, definitely to take the Coastal side, but also to challenge Clemson in the championship game if indeed the Tigers do repeat over in the Atlantic.
How big of a hot seat do you think that Virginia Tech's head coach is?
Justin Fuente?
Yeah.
Not so much. I mean, he's got a, first off, very high on the list when they went after him from Memphis, and they paid some good money.
Yeah, they did.
So I think they're going to let it play out. They'll let the contract play out. But, he's under pressure. You can't lose badly 2 years in a row. And so you find that out. Certain schools are used to winning, and all of a sudden when you go like USC, you go under 500, Clay Helton, he doesn't produce early on this year. He's going to be gone. It's tough to to coach at some of these big schools. And that's why when I go back to college basketball analogy, you remember Stu Morrill. Stu Morrill was at Utah State, did a bang-up job for so many years. The Aggies would always make it to the tournament out of the Big West. And so he got offered, other big-time coaching jobs in the Big Ten, the ACC, the SEC, and the Big 12. And he turned a bunch of them down. He just said, look, I'm happy here. I know it's Logan, Utah. I know I'm probably making $1 million, maybe $1.5 million less than I probably could per year. But there's no pressure here. My family loves it. I'm in a great home environment. Right. So he stayed there. Longevity was king, because once you go to one of those power conferences, you could be this, Shaka Smart guy from VCU. All of a sudden you go to Austin, you better start producing, because Rick Barnes is producing in Tennessee. And if you don't live up to his numbers as Shaka Smart there in Texas, you're going to be gone. They don't care what your name is and what you did at VCU. This is big time, conference play now.
When Beamer stepped down, I found it shocking that they just didn't hand the reins to Bud Foster. I mean, he simply I just want to be the DC, because he's one of the best ones in the country.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think he's happy.
Shocking.
Because, I think it's passed him by as far as, to have a long time coaching tenure somewhere. And so he said, you know what, I'm comfortable here in Blacksburg. My family's comfortable here. And at a big-time level now at these Power 5 conferences, Tony. Let's look at the salaries for the best defensive coordinators. That includes Venables over there, ACC for Clemson. These guys are making big-time money. Now, if you're a Kirby Smart there at Georgia for a while, or for Bama, and you're going to go to Georgia, you're going to take a shot there, that makes sense because you're moving up and you're staying in a power conference like the SEC. So for Smart to make that move or Pruitt to make that move, understandable.
Ken Thomson, SportsX Radio, right here in town on KDON 101.5. Every
101.5 on the FM. The AM, though, if you're going out of state, it's the strongest signal in the state of Nevada. It is grandfathered, the old Jackie Gone Plaza, but it is grandfathered to where they don't power down at dusk like all the other AM stations.
Right.
So they go, you pick it up in Yakima, Washington, Grants Pass, Oregon, on down to Mexico, New Mexico, across the border into Mexico. And my good buddy Bobby Kern, who does the voice of Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, says on a good night, he'll pick up KDON over in Hawaii.
Yeah, and all your shows, by the way, are archived in podcast form at SportsXRadio.
SportsXRadio.com, no commercials, broken down hour 1, hour 2 with a list of the guests. Again, the show's Monday through Friday, live 8 to 10 p.m. Pacific time.
And by the way, today's video brought to you in partnership with Screen Content Management, digital signage done right, your provider of digital building directories, custom TV channels, and monument signs. That being said, we're going to go ahead and make a prediction here. This is not a bold prediction, Ken. When it comes to the ACC, Clemson, maybe 80% shoe in to play for the national title again. Maybe. But I'd say 100% to win the ACC because they're going to end up playing either Miami, Virginia Tech, or Virginia. My sleeper here, and we talked about it, my sleeper in this entire conference is Virginia. I think they're a team that's on the rise. Their quarterback's good. Their defense is good. Their coaching is excellent. Their schedule is favorable. They learned how to win last year, a little bit. Virginia Tech's going to have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder after last year. They're going to want to prove their worth. They lost one of their quarterbacks, and he transferred to Maryland. And then, of course, Miami, new coaching staff. A lot of people have them picked to win.
Manny Diaz was there. He was a defensive coordinator, so he just slides over. He's a pretty solid guy, and they like him. He gets it.
Yeah. So would you think that Miami, out of that coastal between Virginia Tech, Virginia, Pitt's down,
I like
Duke's
Virginia.
down?
I like Virginia. I like Perkins a lot. He's a dual threat. And I do like Virginia Tech because their defense is back intact. Pretty much everybody back on the defensive side of the ball. That's Foster's team. That's his area, and that's where they're going to excel. Also, they have a dynamic receiver, Hazelton, really, really good. He'll get the ball a lot. McLeese is back in the backfield for Virginia. Perkins has help, and he's got Mack, who's an outstanding defensive player that'll lead that defense. Bronco Mendenhall, of course, his BYU days, he thrives when the defense plays well, sets up short fields. But this team's got potential. Narduzzi, I'm surprised he's still there at Pitt, but you bring back a quarterback in Kenny Pickett. Miami, though, remember the kid right down the street, Bishop Gorman. Tate Martell transfers from Ohio State. He'll take over the helm at quarterback.
Right.
If he can produce anything like he did at the high school level, he's very efficient, doesn't make mistakes. He's not the flashiest guy, so he didn't beat out Haskins at Ohio State last year, but he is somebody that is pretty efficient, fundamentally sound, doesn't make the big mistake, and he's going to keep you in games. So that's where Miami's got an advantage there. Decent running game coming back. They lose Homer, but they have their other back. Duke, they lose their quarterback to the Giants in the draft, but Quentin Harris is a fifth-year senior.
Yeah.
So they still have some senior leadership there. Georgia Tech, new coach. Tobias Oliver probably wins out the quarterback job, and they have two good running backs. Howard, who played last year, Kervonte Benson, who led the rushing attack the year before but went down with an ACL last year.
Right.
So Georgia Tech will still be, that rambling wreck, Georgia Tech, but probably a little bit on the weak side. Keep an eye out for Boston College because you bring back Anthony Brown and the leading rusher out of the conference, A.J. Dillon, one of the best in the country. Look, they're a team that, if they get some defensive production, they went into Blacksburg. They whipped up on Fuente's team last year.
That's
Virginia
right,
Tech.
yeah.
Adazio's a pretty good coach. So Boston College, you bring back Brown, you bring back Dillon, you've got some players here. Dave Doran, I think NC State, too much to replace. You lose Finley, you lose a receiver in Harmon, that's outstanding. Wake Forest. Quarterback controversy now because Hartman went down towards the end of last year and Newman stepped in, did a nice job there. So we'll see what happens there with Clausen. And then Louisville, new coach Scott Satterfield replacing Bobby Petrino. And they had that love affair with Petrino, did a great job, but he went to Arkansas, had the mishaps there, went back, tried to rekindle. Once Lamar Jackson's gone, Bobby Petrino's gone as well.
Yeah, some of the odds here. Clemson on the odds here to win the ACC minus 265.
Yep, makes sense.
Miami, Florida plus 800. Florida State plus 1600. Syracuse plus 1600. NC State, Virginia Tech, both at plus 2000.
What's Virginia?
Yeah,
Virginia. What is
Virginia. Virginia Tech, NC State, Virginia Tech, Virginia, the team that we kind of like as a sleeper, plus 2200.
Yeah, I would look there.
Worth a hundy.
I would definitely throw 100 there, and I would throw 100 on Syracuse because Syracuse gets Clemson at home. It's early in the season. I think it's week 3. If they knock them off, then Clemson's got to take care of business. But remember, that's like 2 games because that head-to-head is the first tiebreaker in your half.
And DeVito, last year in spot, he played well.
Yes, he did. He stepped in.
And a lot of people are throwing him out with the bathwater because Dungy's gone. They don't realize this kid can flat out ball a quarterback.
Yeah, he stepped in a couple times when Dungy got hurt, and that was the problem. Dungy was a 6-year guy, but he did get hurt a lot. But he was reckless abandon. And he played hurt several times with the bum ankle, including the win against Clemson a couple years ago. He stayed in that game after he got banged up.
There you go, the ACC, Ken Thomson. Don't forget, check him out every day, sportsxradio.com, and his show here locally is archived there. You got to listen to it, guys. It is information absolutely pertinent to winning one of the best college athletic minds in the nation right here. We're privy to have him here in Las Vegas. You can get him anywhere you're watching this, sportsxradio.com. By the way, folks, switching gears here, we're going to talk about the Paul Feinbaum Conference. That would be the SEC, and I'm so sick of hearing about the SEC. When I lived in Kansas City, my best friend used to be my wingman on the radio, Steve Rich.
Right.
He was my sidekick and my wingman, the Ed McMahon of the show, so to speak. And when I moved down there from Lincoln, where I'd lived for 25 years, being an avid Husker fan, all I got to hear was, we're in the SEC, we're Missouri, we're the... I was so SEC'd out, and of course they had Drew Lock there the last few years I was there, which is one of the best quarterbacks in the Southeastern Conference, but it didn't make a difference. It's Alabama and everybody else.
That's it.
They are like the Nebraska of the 90s. Every year you lose everybody, you reload, you're ranked number 1, you don't miss a beat, you just beat the hell out of everybody. No. Winning every game by double digits, covering spreads that, it's insane the level of talent they have there in coaching and Saban, and it's very. But don't you think it's hard to have a dynasty like that in this day and age with the parity, the athletes that are out there?
Somewhat, but when you're talking about getting continuous 5-star athletes, and you have 5-star guys that are not bummed out about sitting behind another 5-star guy. In other words, they know they can go somewhere else, a mid-tier school, and they can start right away. Not a problem. Even a
Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was starting in Oklahoma.
Right, but I'm talking. Here's the thing with Bama. They're the best over the last decade for sure. Overall, but they're the best because they get away with some things. And here's what I'm talking about. Number one, you're playing Auburn every year. You're playing Auburn. Iron Bowl, great matchup. We all look forward to it. But week 11, you're playing an FCS school, okay? Somebody from the lower division.
Right.
You're not. This year it's Western Carolina. Week 11. Look, I don't have a problem if you want to give some patsy school, smaller school with an enrollment 1/20th of what you have, with not one 5-star player, probably not one 3-star player compared to what you're getting there at the SEC, and you're going to play them like the Citadel last year. And I'll tell you what, it was fun just to watch the Citadel play in Tuscaloosa last year and be tied 10-10 at the half.
Beautiful.
Because I remember when Appalachian State was FCS, of course now FBS in the Sun Belt, but when they went to Michigan, the Big House, and they beat Michigan, you know what? Sometimes you got to watch out. It's happened to Washington State. It's happened to several other teams when they played these teams out of the Big Sky. They've gotten beaten by teams like Eastern Washington and Montana State and Montana, teams like that. So you got to be careful. Bama's playing Western Carolina. Auburn also has a FCS game before the Iron Bowl. And I don't blame Auburn because they're just staying pace with Bama.
Right.
But if you want to play an FCS school, why don't you play them in the first 4 weeks?
Right.
You get 4 non-conference games. The Pac-12, they get 3 non-conference games and then 9 conference games like most of the Power 5 conferences do. When you look at Alabama's non-conference this year, you're opening with Duke, you have Southern Miss, and New Mexico State. Are you freaking kidding me? And then this is what pisses me off about the SEC and Alabama. I don't know how they arrange this. You have a new commissioner there, but somehow they get away with this year after year, Tony. This is the 11th year now, 11 years playing now. There's 7 teams on the East, 7 teams on the West after A&M and Missouri came over. Mm-hmm. So they were only 6 and 6, right? So only 6 in the East. This is the 11th year. In the 11th year, in the 11 years, only one time has Alabama played head-to-head in Georgia, with Georgia. One time. So because they know Georgia's going to be at the top of the East, they sidestep them. And they sidestep Florida a bunch of times as well. So when they're playing those crossover games, East-West, they're taking on the Vanderbilts. They play Tennessee every year, so they get that team while they're down. And then they'll play Vanderbilt. They'll get an occasional Kentucky, some of those teams. But very rarely will you see them play Georgia. It's once in 11 years now, I think 2015. And same thing with Florida. They don't play Florida much at all. But they are a good team. Tua Tagovailoa is a very solid quarterback. You bring back one of the best receivers, not just in the SEC, but in the country, in Jerry Jeudy. This guy's the real deal. So you lose Jacobs, he goes to the Raiders. Damian Harris graduates, but Najee Harris is back. So Saban's not missing a beat there. Offense pretty solid. Defense, they lose a lot, but again, 5 stars waiting.
Yep.
It's going to be tough to beat them. They do play at Auburn. That's one game that'll be tough. They get A&M at home. A&M has Kellen Mond, who I like. This is a blue-collar quarterback that stepped on the scenes a couple years ago as a backup. People looked at him like, this guy's third string. He's not going to do. But he's a guy that just finds ways to win. Nearly beat Clemson at College Station last year as well.
Right. So you got Georgia in the East. You got Alabama in the West. I mean, those are going to be the contenders. Florida, Missouri.
Florida and Missouri, I think, are both dangerous as far as Georgia
goes. Missouri
got
the Bryant kid from Clemson to come over. So they're not. Well, they're going to miss a little step because Drew Lock was just.
Drew Lock was more of a thrower, more of a pure arm. Bryant's going to have to, work the running game, and the running game is good with Roundtree the third coming back. I mean, he's one of the better running backs in the conference. So I actually have Mizzou taking out Florida because they get them in Columbia, but unfortunately, the boys from Columbia have to go, and of course there's 2 Columbias because South Carolina also plays in Columbia, but Missouri has to go to Georgia in between the hedges. Yeah. But Georgia lost a lot of players as well. Now they do have Swift coming back, but Fromm is one of those quarterbacks, he just doesn't make mistakes. And he's been on the big stage, and that's why you had Eason transfer out to Washington because he knew he wasn't going to get his job back. Unfortunately, he got hurt early, and Jake Fromm just stepped right in. So, it is tough. Tennessee, I think they'll make some improvements. Marcus Callaway, one of the better receivers. And keep an eye on Muschamp's team again. South Carolina is still a dark horse because Bentley's back and Dowdell in the backfield. So they still have a bunch of players there. Gamecocks, Muschamp's did probably his best coaching job there at South Carolina.
SportsX Radio, Ken Thomson. Quick on the SEC. We want to close out the show, but we want to mention real quick your daily show. You also have an NFL show. You're heavily connected. And I wore the silver and black.
I like it.
Out of respect for you,
it's good.
Quickly tell us your connection with the Raiders. I know you're a fanatical Raider fan. I'm a Chiefs fan. So you and I we can only be buddies 14 out of the 16 weeks of the NFL season, with the Chiefs and the Raiders clashing. End of the day, though, the Silver and Black State.
Silver and Black State postgame report, and that plays on the Silver State, Nevada being the Silver State, but with the Raiders moving here in 2020, soon to be the Silver and Black State. And Mark Davis said that, and then Governor Sandoval, when they broke ground down here, re-echoed those sentiments, said, no, we are no longer just the Silver State, we are now the Silver and Black State. So I, in turn, bought silverandblackstate.com, .net, .org, .vegas. I did the Silver and Black State postgame report last year, looking to do a Silver and Black State podcast prior to a Raider game and then after the Raider game this year. I think the Raiders, when you look at a Khalil Mack and you look at an Amari Cooper being traded, Raider Nation's like, what the hell are you doing, Gruden? I thought you came over to win in Oakland before you transitioned to Vegas. He did, but he knew they didn't have the money. This is my personal feeling. They had the money to pay Khalil Mack, but it would be kind of like, Tony, if you had 10 grand in the bank, and I said, Tony, look, I'm going to stay as your sidekick. Just give me $9,800. No problem. And that's going to leave you $200 because that money on the guaranteed signing bonus for Mack goes into escrow. So all of a sudden, Mark Davis doesn't have that money to wheel and deal. So Khalil Mack goes, Amari Cooper then goes later to Dallas. Amari Cooper really only had 2 good years there with the Raiders and probably a handful of games in his last 3 years. So you make that move, but you get a couple number ones, a couple of number ones from the Bears, and then you only give up a 3rd and a 5th for Antonio Brown. And now you look at the players that have come in, including these draft choices, 3 number 1 picks this year. 21 players for those 2 so far because of the amount of money that it cost Mac, that it cost for Mac and what would have cost for Cooper to get extended. And you already had Derek Carr on a huge retainer. So you had to make the choice. I'm telling you, Mayock comes in. Look, he doesn't have GM experience at the pro level or college level, but he's an assessor of college talent as well as anybody. And then you bring in, Gruden, who doesn't have to work. He could have stayed in the booth, cush job, just kick back. He wants to win. He likes being on the field. Silver and Black State, when they get here to Nevada, you won't even recognize that roster from 2 years ago. This year, there'll probably be 25 new guys on that roster from last year. They lose Cook, who goes to New Orleans, a tight end, but you bring in Williams, the good receiver from the Chargers, so you weaken the Chargers, and you put him across from AB. Josh Jacobs is going to be a good, solid running back. He'll replace, beast mode. So, the defense, you take chances on guys like Vontaze Burfict, another guy incognito. Look, these guys have zero tolerance, but the ceiling is high if they produce like they have produced in the past. Your Chiefs, they're still the team to beat if Tyreek Hill is part of that offense because he is the Jerry Rice of this day and age. He is the most dynamic offensive player in the game. There's quarterbacks. Look, Mahomes is a great quarterback, but you take Tyreek Hill away from him, you don't have Travis Kelce one-on-one. You have Kelce getting doubled up. You have other guys like Watkins that are not going to get they're not going to be the same. So Tyreek Hill, we'll see what happens with the off the field. Now, he sidesteps probably the legal battle there in the KC area. But the NFL is going to do their due diligence, and they are not going to let this guy walk. Minimum, I'm telling you, 6 games. Minimum. Yeah. I'll be shocked if it's less than 10 with Tyreek Hill based on those audio tapes that they have with the 3-year-old son. And they know whether he points the finger at the fiance or she points the finger at him, they know either way a 3-year-old kid got his arm broken, and one of them was at fault. So something's going to come down, Tony.
All things AFC West, especially Silver and Black. SportsXRadio.com. Check out Ken, his daily show. Check me out. Check us out. DocSports.com. All the other conferences, in the NFL, in college football. We've got all the content you need over there. Be sure, since 1971, the most respected name in the sports handicapping industry. Be sure and check us out there, DocSports.com. I want to thank Screen Content Management.
Tony, just wanted to get one more thing in because you're talking Doc Sports, and the wife, of course, hails from Wisconsin. Go Badgers. That came from my wife, Christina.
Oh, no.
I had to get that in there.
Oh, now you're going to get an extra Christmas ham from Wade.
Hey, you know it.
Oh, my goodness. Ken Thomson, ladies and gentlemen. Check us out, DocSports.com. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.